morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in social media land, in podcast land, however you're viewing or listening to us today. My name is Steve Reed. I am in the North Dallas area, North Dallas, Texas area, and welcome to Taboo Talk with Ray and Steve. The only problem is I'm limping today because Ray, well, he had some medical challenges a couple of days ago, so he's not going to be with us today. But I promise we're going to have a great show because co-hosting today, I am thrilled, two pieces, to have the founder of OBBM Network, Susan Hamilton.
Oh my goodness.
How
Thank
about
you.
that? Susan, how in the world are you doing today?
I'm doing well. It's bad hair day all over Dallas, but we're going to do it.
That's okay. That's all right. So, and you know, we're doing things. We've got a couple of technical things that are going
Yep.
on. We're not doing things the way we normally do them. That's okay. I'm going to ask everybody that's viewing to be patient with us. Okay, give us some grace today. But for those of you that are listening to us on all of the different podcast networks, welcome. We are thrilled to pieces. I'm going to give you a little bit of a background on Susan and myself. This goes back about, I don't know, 6-7 years. We were both very involved in the Zig Ziglar organization. They have a program called Monday Morning Devotions. And guess when it is? Monday mornings. It's at 7:30 Central Time. Well, Susan has spoken there many times. I have spoken there many times. And when we were meeting in person, we were there. We'd rub elbows on a regular basis. And then one day, Susan says, hey, I'm building a media network. It's going to be a giant network. And my initial thought was, okay, great. How does that impact me? And I'm not going to. Well, then about a year and a half ago, my buddy Ray Amanat and I sat down. Yeah, we sat down. It was over Zoom. But we had that virtual cup of coffee, and we decided, let's do a podcast. And so we started the podcast in January of 2022, and we have had a blast doing it. So we've gotten well over a year's worth of podcasts that people can see on Facebook Live as well as on YouTube Live. But then several months ago, Susan and I reconnected again, and we started putting all the pieces together to do a live program on the OBBM Network, Offbeat Business Network. So, Susan, why don't you share with our audience a little bit about OBBM, your vision, and then we're going to get into the program. We're going to be talking about risky things today. So, Susan.
Oh, everything's a risk. It's a risk to be in here today. All of our studios are full today, and I'm managing lights on not the same equipment I normally have in here. So, Larry, forgive me. But no, the Offbeat Business Media Network, now known as OBBM Network, because that just made a whole lot more sense, it was exactly as you described, Steve, starting out going, you know what, we're going to need to reach the local community in a much stronger way. And part of that was a realization that 90% of American micro to small businesses tend to be family-owned businesses of 9 employees or less. And as I started to reframe that and realize, hey, who is this group? I started going, you know what? They actually have skin in the game in absolutely every single issue going out there today, but they're the busiest group possible. They have really struggled to keep up with marketing and technology. And if they're not in audio and video, how are they going to be in business today?
Exactly.
With the way things are going? And that was before we realized that there were some psychopaths trying to take over the world, which made us realize that was just imperative that we move much stronger because this group needs representation. My goal today is to make sure that this group realizes that they are 50% of our nation's GDP. And if you think our country is being run by the United Nations right now, you're absolutely right. And the only way to combat that is to have a strong presence, and media is the way to reach your community.
Yeah.
So I'm really proud to be doing what we're here at Grace Point Media Studios, where they manage our productions and be able to really get television, podcasts, and advertising out into a community that's affordable and gives them the exposure that they need within markets they are dying to work with anyway.
Well, and you know, one of the things that when you and I first started talking about this concept, you were just focusing on the Dallas area,
Yeah.
Dallas and a little bit of Fort Worth in the Mid Cities
Uh-huh.
area. But I'm looking at your background, and what is this I see about Orlando?
Hmm.
Is that like in Orlando, Florida?
Yeah,
So
we've
you,
got Central Florida now, and so one of the that we got connected with Traverse TV, and I'm on the board with them. We have decided uh, to really put our hats together because we can actually take these affiliate stations now
mhm,
and start populating them with our local business content. And so we got picked up, and one thing led to another. Now, actually, we've got a news program, and that's the graphic that you see behind me, that is going out at 5 and 9 Central, as well
that's
as
cool.
6 and 10 in direct. The time frames we're used to seeing the news as it is, but we're sharing news that people really aren't hearing. The stuff that's coming
Yeah,
into our inbox, we get it through marketing, we get it
exactly.
through a lot of the things that are censored today. But it has everything to do with what's going on in Congress, what's going on in your local community. How does that impact you? Which is a question that you actually asked earlier. What does this have to do with me? Well, if you have limited access to information, you believe that everybody feels a certain way
Yeah,
about
exactly.
you're right, and it's that.
That is
But
so true.
you and I both know that marketing is there's a difference between marketing copy and marketing content,
Yeah.
and that copy is there to evoke that um, reaction
Hmm.
and to get the buy-in. But when you get into the copy, you start realizing that wait a minute, that a lot of what's being sold, if not 100% of the stuff being sold on state media today, is actually not for your benefit. It's actually to be thought police and control your thoughts,
Oh, absolutely.
which is something that sounds so bizarre. I wouldn't have imagined talking like that. But today, if we're not bold enough, we are going to really fail to set off the alarm bells in time to put the brakes on, because there is something that we can do about it now, but it does require a bolder stand.
Susan, you have hit on so many different things that I want to cover today. But before we jump into that, folks, as you're listening and watching us, Susan is my conscience, and she's got all the experience in doing the podcasts and so forth, and working with syndicators. So, with that said, we've got to go to our very first commercial break because she's going to keep me tighter in everything that we are doing. So, folks, stay tuned. We'll be back in just a minute. I want to share something with you about my partner, Ray Amanat, and Heroes in Action.
Hi, welcome to Heroes in Action. I'm Ray Amanat, founder and creator of this training system. I originally made it so that everyone can train for free. We have programs for kids, for women, families, and businesses. I'm an author, speaker, and educator on everything that has to do with violence and bullying prevention education. If you'd like more information about who we are and what our programs are, please go to our website at heroesinaction.us or give me a call if you have any questions at 727-314-2534. We hope to see you here to train.
Now, I got to tell you, I was able to spend some time. Ray is in the Tampa Bay area, actually in Port Richey, Florida, and I had the opportunity to spend some time with Ray last summer, and I will tell you, he gave me some really cool information and education on self-defense, how to protect myself better. And he's looking at things from a very different perspective.
Yeah.
He's been doing this stuff now for 40 years. And he started his program out 40 years ago where he was training in self-defense and all the different martial arts disciplines. And about 20 years ago, he shifted from doing things in a for-profit format to doing a nonprofit. And he says he wants to be able to give everybody the opportunity to be able to get self-defense training. So he's looking for donors. He's looking for people that will contribute on a consistent basis. So one of the things we were talking about recently, he says, if people just contribute $25 a month, then he's going to need about 600 or 800 people to meet all of his financial needs to be able to travel any place in the United States and take his training seminars in those particular formats. So, folks, if you would like to help to encourage Ray and get his message of personal defense and self training or self protection, you need to contribute to Ray and help him get his mission going on. So, Susan, back to you. So, we were talking the other day about risks and what types of risks we are involved in. Now, you've already mentioned one risk, and that is the risk of listening to what the chatter is all around us, that is the corporate media enterprise.
Yeah,
So,
it's really numbing, isn't it? And I'll tell you what, even the actual what's true is quite chilling. I mean, it's not like it's going to be easy one way or the other. But knowing what you're really doing out there, what's really going on around you, is the way that you can protect your family and your neighborhood, your business and your community and your nation.
okay. So when you say protect your community and the
Yeah.
nation and so forth, I mean, give us a little bit more. What are you talking about there?
Well, there are some great risks out there. And in business, you and I know it well. It was a risk for us to take a conservative message and put it out on a CBS affiliate station, right?
Okay,
That's a risk.
sure.
And yet, if you don't do it, where are people going to hear another point of view and be able to research for themselves? One of the things that we were determined to do is make sure that we encourage people to follow us on our Rumble channel so
Okay,
that they can look at all the links that we have and go and research and read themselves and realize there's a lot more information out there that you couldn't Google and search for because censorship has gotten so bad. There is there are a couple points of view that state media wants you to adopt as your own and live within.
yeah,
And the problem with that is they lead you down a road that has nothing to do with the liberty that you have as an American.
yeah,
There are some really wonderful things about growing up here, and but we may have taken them for granted a little bit. The things that we have in the United States of America that a lot of these communist nations don't have. And the risk is really, really great that liberty is corroded. And I'd say it's already eroded, quite a bit, but it could actually dissolve. Korea wasn't always communist, right? North Korea, Soviet China wasn't always Soviet China.
yeah,
There was a time when these nations did not look like that. And there's such massive amounts of the population. You go, well, how did this happen?
yeah.
Well, there's actually history is cyclical and it repeats itself. And so if you don't know history, you're going to repeat it
Exactly.
instead of
That's
avoid it.
exactly right.
So if you start realizing that, wow, there's history, but today, here's a big risk, Steve. Information that you and I were brought up to know how to go to an encyclopedia or
Right,
the library and research information, and we would be able to
right.
have access to information. Today, our young people are being taught mainly on the computer what definitions are. And even our Constitution that is being currently followed is not the original Constitution. And so you start realizing that we don't really understand that information manipulation has been going on so long and so subtly that we are actually agreeing to something far less than what we have a right to, and our children will have much less than that if in fact we don't get really great with our business
Yeah.
today. Because and that it really is about that. It's about being really great with your business today, because this group of people has the largest influence in the community than anyone else. And it may not feel like it because a lot of the large corporate voices that are following the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, a lot of that sounds like, oh, wow, that must be the way things are going.
Yep.
A lot of people from that environment actually were voted into our school boards. And so you are hearing these ideas being adopted, and as though you are the minority in this space because you
Exactly.
hear that message more. Well, there's only one, there's a difference, right? You don't have to, we can actually speak truth in love,
Yep.
and just be great at business, right? If you're great at business, you're going to
Yep.
be interacting with people all day long,
Yep.
and you really have an obligation to do that.
Susan, you just mentioned, you've mentioned so many things. Um, one of our previous guests that we had on the program back in the fall, his name is KD Sims. Now, KD Sims is in McKinney in Collin County, Texas. It's on the north side of the Houston area. What am I talking about? In the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Yeah.
And KD retired from the education world, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, something like that. And somebody introduced him to some of the corruption and some of the garbage that's going on in the school systems today. And he has really gone after the junk that's going on. And we've had programs where we've talked about the whole corruption behind CRT and the way the school systems are trying to re-educate or indoctrinate our children in specific ways. Well, I got a call from KD about a month, maybe a month and a half ago, and he said, Steve, you are not going to believe what's going on in one of our school districts in this area. And I'm not going to mention that it was the Princeton School District, which is north of McKinney, north of Dallas. So you didn't hear me say it was Princeton. Anyway, but they had a situation where there were literal Satan worshipers that were trying to take over the board. And they were trying
Sounds
to,
bizarre, doesn't it?
yeah, I mean, 10, 15, 20 years ago, we would never have thought about that. Well, Katie, real quickly, actually, I'm going to finish up the story about KD because I believe we need to take another break. So, folks, hang on. I want to share with you a real quick video that talks about a company that I work with, and it's called LifeWave.
We all hope to age gracefully so we can enjoy our later years full of energy, vitality, and good health. But so often with age, our bodies start to show signs that things just aren't as they used to be. Our energy, skin, healing and recovery time, sleep, it all just seems to go downhill. Introducing LifeWave X39, the world's first product ever to activate stem cells, a true breakthrough in regenerative science that helps restore our bodies to a healthier, more youthful state in a way no other product can. No drugs, no injections, no kidding.
Susan, I am so excited to be able to share information with our general audience. About a year and a half ago, this is in the fall of 2021, I was introduced to this little patch. It's a wafer thin patch, no drugs, no lotions, no injections, nothing of that sort. It just reflects my body heat, the infrared heat or light from my body back into my body, stimulating a copper peptide which tells my stem cells to go back to work. The amazing thing with this product is it literally reverses the aging process. We have documented proof, evidence by major universities around the world that what I am saying is 100% accurate. So what most people don't realize is I am actually 93 years old. I'm kidding. But the great thing is this thing literally is reversing the aging process. It helps with pain. It helps with better sleep. It helps with better focus, more energy. Those are just a few of the benefits that you get by activating your own stem cells. So if you want more information, I'm happy to get you information. You can reach out to me through my website. You can reach out to me through my email, and I would love to share more information. And Susan, I put another little scroll across the screen a minute ago. I forgot to say early on, this is an opinion-based program. Okay? It's the opinions of Ray Amanat and myself, and today, Susan Hamilton. These are our opinions. Now, we've done the research, and we happen to believe that our opinions are fact. Okay? not based on what we think, but literal fact. So I laugh when people say, well, the fact is, no, that's your opinion. That's not fact, that's your opinion. We've done the research and we've got the facts behind all of the things that we are sharing. So, anyway, back to my story about KD. So, about 3 weeks ago, KD was going to do a meet and greet type of an event. And he had gotten everything set up with one of the local restaurants in the McKinney, Allen, Texas area. And one of these Satanists didn't like the fact that KD was going to be spreading the message. Mm-hmm. And so risk was involved for them, but then that risk was transferred to KD because these Satan worshipers got in touch with the corporate office for that restaurant and said, if you don't cancel that meeting, we're going to protest, we're going to do this, we're going to do all kinds of ugly things to your restaurant, and nobody's going to be doing business with your restaurant.
Bully tactics. Yes, that is the risk, isn't it?
Three different restaurants before he found one.
So did you go to that? Because I did.
I couldn't. Susan, I've shared with you, I'm still in the aftermath of a broken leg, and I'm now starting to get around. So it's just difficult.
Well, it was a big deal. It was there were lots of people there, a lot of, and he had a lot. There were probably 3 different groups that were there.
Oh, that's excellent.
So it was a really great turnout. Great restaurant.
So tell me more about some of the other risks, and we were talking earlier about our founding forefathers. How do our risks today relate to the risks that they had 230, 40 years ago?
What a great question. I mean, what a great question. It's like, do you really think freedom isn't free? There's the risk of speaking that you believe in conservative family values, right? Mm-hmm. That because someone else has said that is going to be hate speech. Now there are so many people, especially in the local business space, that have decided, let's be quiet, right? Yeah. Let's just keep our head low and stay busy. One lady told me once, about a year ago, that said, "Oh, you are absolutely right, 100%." And she added so much more to the conversation. So a very well-educated woman, and she said, "But I'm just watching the way it was, during World War II. The ones that spoke up first, they were the first ones to off. So I'm just going to wait, and I will speak up later." Yeah. And you wonder, how did that contribute to how things went? We've got to realize that both the Constitution and the Bible really only work. Those aren't defenses; those are statutory. Those are the things that you stand on. Those are platforms that make the rest of things make sense. And it's not like you're saying that everybody else that doesn't agree with those values is hated. That's not the point. But mainstream and state media, and I'm calling it state media. Larry and I agreed that that's the proper term for this because all of it is really handed down. They're allowed to say only so much.
Exactly.
But when it comes to that, you've got the idea that you're going to play the right against the left. You're going to play the colors, white against black, and there's a lot of colors in our nation. Exactly. The idea that it's all Republican or Democrat instead of the uniparty. Understanding this is a people. Do you believe in the right to liberty, that God gave you that right to liberty, and this Constitution was designed to protect that? Or do you believe that you no longer need a nation? You don't have to have borders. Well, every other country has borders, but the United States doesn't need to have borders. Where let's see, we've got some very real hangups here. The Ohio incident. You're looking at where did the money go? We gave it to another country to protect their borders. Well, we're financing a war. Is anybody allowed to say that? These are ridiculous things. And in the Christian community, so many people have they do mission work out there and they see it. Yeah. Okay. We're not saying the devastation isn't happening. We're saying that what is the role of how and what about Aleppo? What about some of these? There's a whole world at war, and that, of course, is prophesied. There are wars and rumors of wars, right? We saw that was going to happen. You're not strong enough to take care of them unless you put on your own oxygen mask, right? So what's the risk? Is the risk, let's give away all our gas and oil reserves. Let's give away all our money until we have absolutely no value left in our own dollar.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so at some point, most of us can look at this and say, wait a minute, these are not American interests. But as long as state media has you believing it's two different sides that are, then we're each other's problem, then you're not communicating, you're not standing together, which of course divide and conquer is that's tried and true tactic.
That is so true. I saw something this morning. Somebody posed a question on social media. In the past, when another country has had a crisis, we would always send blankets and food and medicine and water and support and people and so forth. Okay? What are we doing to Ukraine or for Ukraine? We're sending them cash. We're
And
sending them money.
missiles, right? We're sending them actual artillery.
Yeah. But are we doing anything really to support the populace? No, we're just sending the oligarchs, all of the elitists, we're sending them cash so that what can they do? They can then take that money and then pay off our politicians here. So it's a dog chasing his tail type of a scenario. So why don't we go back and we'll start doing the things that we used to do to help gird up other people and really support people the way it should be done. And then you've got those non-government organizations that unfortunately are taking over a lot of the things that we're doing, and they're manifesting more and more of the problems that are going on in our society. And so as a result, you've got people pouring in over the southern border and no risk to them. They come in, okay, we're going to send you back, okay, we're going to give you this phone, and we're going to call you when it's time for you to go back, or give me a break. So we now are at risk, especially here in Texas, we're at a greater risk for all of the crime and violence and all of the other stuff, and social services being run dry because of the risk of allowing people to come into the country, and we're not building a wall. Wait a second. Congress has walls around it. Why can't we have a wall around the country? I'm sorry. That sounds way too political. But you know what? It's time for another break. But this one, we're going to do things a little bit differently. And folks, I want to share some information with you about this amazing broadcasting network. And it's a breath of fresh air. So hold on.
Now your DFW events can be listed on the DFW events segment of OBBM Network News. New episodes posted each week are reaching people right here in your own backyard. Get in on this. Now it's affordable to reach thousands of people in new markets, offering exposure to your professional network like never before. Get us your listing by Tuesday at noon, and you'll be included in the following week's release on Monday. Email info@offbeatbusiness.com for our digital media kit and discover a better way to reach DFW. Not hosting events? Your business will benefit from the exposure our events list generates. Take advantage of brand exposure on the ticker or with the logo graphic, video advertisement, even a QR code. Click on our QR code to access our digital media kit now.
All right, Susan, you got to tell us more, our audience more about OBBM Network and what your mission is and how you can support both the local community as well as the national community as we're broadcasting nationally right now.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, we are a television and podcast and advertising production house over here off of 635 in Luna in Farmers Branch. And so we've got 4 different studios here that, and we actually create brands and television programming that is, it's network quality. It's the same type of thing that you would find in when you're looking at your larger channels. So what we wanted to do is provide a way for the local community to afford to get their voice out there. But you know what? A lot of people in that space don't really feel that confident with television and podcast media. So we added training. We've got media training that we offer to help people understand how to use their brand. We teach them how to do, we've got a program called So You Got the Link, Now What? That is about to go live on our website. So people are about to be able to get that digitally. But we decided to go ahead and focus not on traditional medias. We are on all of them. We're on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and YouTube and all of that. But we don't really promote that, and you're not going to find most of the recent things there. Largely because there's two votes that you make in your life. One of them is who you vote for to run your government, to represent you. But the other vote is with your money. And when it comes to, you've got to realize that no matter what you're doing on those other media platforms, they simply sell your data, and it's the most invasive data you've ever seen in your life. They take that data and they sell it to large corporations that can afford to master the narrative. And and so whether you don't care about your own data because they got it anyway, well, you're not wrong. But everybody that interacts with you, and data is much more than we think it is. So it's very important to support. I've actually speak about that on obbmdfw.locals.com. I've got a course there, and I've got a couple of videos talking about that right now. But the long and short of it is, folks, there's over 25 other free speech platforms you will find us on. Why not get behind companies that have decided to get in this and not play those games? We can do that, but it's going to take support. There's a great risk out there that if we do something different, right? But I got to encourage you. There was a time, I remember when Facebook was just starting. That was tough. It's starting your own business page and figuring out how it worked. Boy, you did trainings, you went to lunches to learn it, you worked it, and you spent so much time. And do you not see how spending that much time on that attracted the local community to interact on your business page, putting marketing technology, which is actually very different than you think it is, right into your own neighborhood? And that's what we've done here. So it's not going to stop. It's not going to end. There's a lot of money in it. They love that. Absolutely. And they love keeping us divided that way and keeping us watched that way. And so if we start realizing, wait a minute, a lot of these other social networks will benefit from our behavior and interaction on those networks now, because algorithms are real. I mean, you want to use it, you want to work it. What we've done is taken that initial step to go out there and build up those networks and invite you to come join us. Yeah. And that way you're not going in alone. You're not having to do it the way it used to be. You can get out there and learn something new.
Susan, some of the things you're dancing around some of the issues. I know that there are people that are afraid of letting their voice be made known, that they have conservative values. They do want to protect our children and our families, and they want to protect our churches. They want to protect our country, our government. And the challenge comes in that they are afraid to make their voice known because of the attacks like KD was having.
Oh, sure. But I'll tell you what. That by that happening, Steve, that first restaurant would have had a much lower turnout. The second restaurant would have had a much larger turnout. By the time it went to the third one, that guy that he took that risk, and he had 3 times the size.
Exactly.
So what was the risk exactly? Was the risk that you don't speak, that you don't congregate, and you don't do your level best to understand the issues so that you can speak them accurately?
Exactly. Yeah, but Susan, there are other risks, and I heard somebody say many years ago, the definition of fear, FEAR, is false evidence appearing real. Yeah. So we make choices, we make decisions based on that fear or that risk of loss of some sort. And one of the fears that we have is, what are people going to say or think about me? My reputation is at stake. I may lose business over this, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. And so as a result, we don't vocalize, we don't tell people what's going on because we're afraid we're going to lose a client. And, in my coaching practice, I tell people all the time, I say, listen, if you are looking for me to tickle your ears, that's not who I am. if I see something that is impeding your progress or your value, your worth, I'm going to point that out to you. Well, there is a risk to me when I do that because I may lose a client because
Sure, sure.
they
But
don't
then again,
like.
you're really filtering though, aren't you? Now, at this point, you're saying you don't want to work with a company that isn't going to allow you, or with a client that's not going to
Exactly.
allow you to speak truthfully to them. What
Well,
good is that? Yeah.
funny thing. So my other business, I'm a life and marriage coach. I'm an executive coach, and somebody asked me not too long ago, Steve, why aren't you licensed by the state? And you're a licensed counselor, which I've got enough hours of continuing education to get about, I don't know, 5 or 6 masters and a couple of PhDs. Okay, and I said because I don't want the state telling me what I can say and do. I don't want somebody else putting their authority over top of me and restricting me, tying my hands so I can't help people the way that I know is best. Well, that's exactly what our media is doing to us. That's what our government is doing to us. So we are afraid to speak up and say, this is the truth. This is what we believe, and we've got to stand
You
firm
know,
on that truth.
there's documentation. It is truth, and I'll tell you what, it's a lot more truth than what you're hearing with current climate science. With all of that stuff being shoved down your throat, it actually defies what scientists are saying. They were not the scientists that signed this. All the scientists agree. No, scientists got grant money to agree, and
Oh,
scientists
no
that did
question.
not
No
agree.
question.
You know,
No
so
question.
it's ridiculous. Of these things are not. If these were really about health, if it was really about climate, would they really be mining this cobalt in China-run
Oh,
factories?
don't get me
And
started.
I mean, don't get me started. None of this
Oh,
stuff is
Susan.
free, cheap, or
Yeah,
anything else. But I
yeah,
can cover more of that when we get back.
yeah. So we're going to take a non-video break, and we're going to talk about a couple of other things related to heroes in action. And I want to share with you some of the things. Again, I mentioned earlier that I went and spent some time with Ray, and he gave me some insights into personal protection. But one of the things that he talked about was just being observant of everything that's going on around you. And so
Yeah.
if you want some private lessons from Ray, you can go to his website and schedule something using this QR code. But and actually, I should say, shame on me. I should tell you again what Ray's website is because folks in our listening audience, you don't see a QR code. His website is heroesinaction.us. So sorry for those of you that are listening to us on podcast. I'm still making that transition going from video to an audio platform as well. But reach out to Ray for your own personal protection, and he will do corporate training. He works with real estate organizations. He just did a training not too long ago with a group of special needs kids in the Tampa Bay area.
Love that.
And he showed me some videos and some of the images from that. That was so special to watch how he's working with those people. But when you work with Ray and you contribute to his organization, that's the kind of thing that he gets to do. So he's helping people that are underprivileged or dealing with some types of issues, physical issues. He's helping to give them a voice. And speaking of giving people a voice, Susan, how are some other ways that OBBM can give people, just the rank and file business owner, a voice in our country today?
Oh, that's wonderful. When we started this, we were really focused on the local business community. And to this day, that is really going to be the primary focus.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great draw. We've got these, 7 to 8, Monday through Friday, 9:30, 10:30, Monday through Friday in the evening. We've got these wonderful time slots. And as we are giving out business information, there's a lot of businesses that work out of their homes,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
But what we realized is we could go even further than that. This local family business, what about just programming that's not propaganda based? What about just programming? We've had
Exactly.
producers coming out of the woodwork to bring in programs that are, cartoons, again, good cartoons,
I love that.
children's programming. I mean, A quality. grade A quality, wonderful productions and documentaries and everything else. So whether or not you have a voice that wants to talk about something that's going to interest the public, it could be how to grow your business. It could be marketing and technology. It could be there's health programs. There's leadership lessons. There's so we've got that whole morning time. We call it breakfast with the boss.
Okay.
Actually, it's kind
That's
of a cool morning segment there. But why not add all those pieces to it? You may have a voice and go, man, I got to do this, and I don't really know how to. I don't know my foray into it. We will help you build that brand so that you're actually playing to your core values and attracting the market that you want. In the meanwhile, you're going to reach other people that you didn't even know you could. Now, there's some people that need that larger familiarity, right? I always say there's three things that businesses need. They call it sales, but one is approachability, right? So some businesses really struggle with maybe I needed a bookkeeper, maybe I needed a chiropractor, a massage therapist, but I got all kinds of reasons why I'm not going to do this, even though I know I need to do it. I need to see a dentist, but ouch, so I won't go. Well, that's an approachability problem, and media can solve that and take those scares and fears away from the community. Then there's another problem that people have, and that's familiarity. If there's 6 or 7 of you in every meeting, I start to in your industry, for instance, a lot of times I would real estate, financial services, business coaches, as you know, Steve, you get life coaches. When there's so much of that around, I'll get to it when I need to. There's no sense of urgency, and you've got all the time in the world, and business isn't really getting done. You're kind of kicking the can down the road. But media can change that, because now I can take your particular message and help identify, because there is enough business for every single one of you in the same industry, in a networking group. I'm not going to say don't go, but there's somebody in there for you, and it's a communication issue, and we can help you define that. But then sometimes it's just exposure, Steve. Sometimes people just need more people to know about new product in an existing market, existing product in a new market, new product, new market, whatever that is. I just need people to know about me. Well, that's advertising, and it's the smartest way to really leverage putting your voice with everyone else, because not everyone's a show host, not everyone's a guest, but sometimes their advertising is really helpful. So we can bring in that network quality advertising that doesn't land just on OBBM Network, which is super fabulous. And we're reaching 6 million people over there in Central Florida. And we've been reaching, 5,500 focused on that local business market right here in DFW every single week. It's more than that. Now you can, we can go anywhere. We are live on the we are live nationwide. And where we'll be moving this year takes us into Denver, Breckenridge, Chicago, and LA. If you have got a brand that wants to reach those markets, I have got the avenues for you. So it's time to do it. They're very affordable. Let's go.
Oh, Susie, you just opened up a can of worms, but it's a good can of worms. That's a good can of worms, because that tells us that the platform is growing, is expanding. It's not just a Dallas-Fort Worth market. It's not just an Orlando and now a Tampa or Port Richey market.
Right. No, we call it local everywhere.
Nationwide. Yeah. Absolutely.
Local everywhere. It's on our business cards. We decided that was really to help people understand, because, as you well know, so here's the big risk. The big risk is that we trust all the theys out there to get it done for us. When local business really, we used to design our cities. We used to be a part of the school board, the city council. Somewhere down the line, those positions started being occupied with people that really don't have that same drive and concern for the local community. Instead, they have a large drive and concern that the community does everything the international community is doing, which is not necessarily in our best interest. So we need to be looking a little closer. We need to be following some money. Who can do it better than a business owner? So really, all we have to do is create business. I've said this for a long time, Steve. All you got to do, you want to solve this problem, this huge, huge problem that is much bigger giant than you have the ability to take down yourself. Just be great at business, be honest and truthful and loving, and you watch and see. God takes that and moves with it. There's power and authority in it, and you have an opportunity to influence people, but not just to sit on your sofa and do nothing. There's an
exactly.
action that has to happen. The huge risk in doing nothing is that this thing actually does get bigger than you want and take over.
Absolutely. Susan, several years ago, I'm guessing, 10, 12 years ago, an organization, some people got together to start a new organization that was counter to AARP. Okay, now that's the last time you're going to hear me talk about them, because now I want to promote AMAC.
Absolutely.
Okay? The
Absolutely.
Association of Mature, I just go AMAC. Well, why am I talking about that? Well, they took some risks and got outside of the norm, the mold that had been established. Well, that other company, they're the ones that are really looking out for seniors. No, they're not.
No, they're not.
Looking out for political interests and typically on the
and pharmaceutical interests. Those two big things that have way too much control and influence.
Absolutely. So why am I sharing that with you? Well, for our listening audience, tomorrow night, Thursday night, March 2nd at 6:30 in Melissa, Texas, which is north of McKinney, north of the Dallas area. Yours truly is going to be sharing a message. It really is a message of hope. What's going on in our government today, but what can we do to really support our community and turn things around to get us back to the point where we are in control? So that's Thursday evening, 6:30-ish at First Melissa Church in downtown Melissa, Texas. But then on the evening of the 7th, I'm going to be sharing a similar message for another AMAC organization that's going to be meeting at the Collin County Republican Center. And let me see if I can pull up the address on that. That is 2963 West 15th Street in Plano. So if you want to get some additional information, what's going on in our government, how can we better arm ourselves and prepare, and in a shameless promotion, we're going to be talking a lot about OBBM Network and Taboo Talk with Ray and Steve. So that's just some of the stuff that we've got going on here. So I'm just excited about the fact that silent majority, well, they've been poking us with that cattle prod a little bit too much. And some of the silent majority are no longer being silent. So, Susan, I got to thank you for opening up this venue, not just to us, but to our listening audience, to all the different podcast sites that people can go to, whether it's Spotify or iHeart or Apple or whatever, all the other different sites where you can go and listen to this kind of content. The video sites, whether it's Rumble Locals, all the different ways that we can get a conservative, family-based message back out to the populace so that people can learn what the truth really is and how the government, how the media, the corporate media is trying to manipulate every single one of us. So I got to say thank you. And thank you again from Ray and myself. Thank you for inviting us to be part of OBBM. And we got a lot of really fun stuff that's going to be coming out very soon.
Well, I'm very excited about it. Thank you for having me. I've studied this morning. I was looking at Romans 15. And the way the page was set up in my Bible, I went back into Romans 14. And as I'm reading this and just, there has never been a time when risk wasn't there. The United States of America was not built on risk aversion. It was built on, from the very core, and that's what it's going to take again. This is not no risk. This is, something could happen, but we know that our God comes back and turns it all for our good, and so we need to really believe that. And I think now that's the time. What do we believe? These are the times when you put that to work. What do you believe? Move forward powerfully. Yes.
With that said, we have to remember that God is sovereign. God is in control, but he doesn't tell us to sit on the sidelines. He tells us to have a voice, get out there and speak.
He works through his people.
I just finished doing a study on the book of Exodus and Moses and how he went to Egypt. And God told Moses, let my people go. I mean, free my people. That took risk on his
Yep.
part. It took risk on Joshua's part to take the nation of Israel across the Jordan River and march around the city of Jericho 6 times without saying a word. And the 7th time, you are going to let out a loud voice, a yell, a scream, blow the trumpets, and the walls came down.
Yeah, what
They
if it
took
didn't,
risks.
right? What if it didn't? What a weird, how awkward.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Well, and
And how
everybody's got a
dangerous.
voice. Everybody's got a voice. We just have to use it. And that, I think, is the key. So Susan, thank you again for using your voice, allowing us to use our voice, and hopefully, just in this little sliver of time, bring things back to where we need to be, back in the foundation of what our country started on. Our founding fathers, they take big risks. It's our turn to step up to the plate and take big risks. So, Susan, thank you very much for joining me today. And
Fear is contagious. That's exactly how it went forward, but so is bravery.
absolutely.
So let's get brave.
I love it. All right, Susan, thank you. And for all of you,
Thank you.
say a prayer for Ray as he recovers from hip surgery a couple days ago. And he said he'll be back next week, and I hope so, because I miss
great.
all of his sound effects. So anyway, all right, guys, have a blessed day. Be blessed.